Hello everybody, welcome to Sage Thyme. I'm Lillian here, and this is your Virgo reading for the season of Gemini. The season of Gemini being May 21st through June 20th. So Virgo, I've already drawn cards from you from the Heavenly Bodies Astrology deck and the Guardian of the Night Tarot, both new decks to me, and I'm really enjoying the different interplay with both of those decks and with the other ones that I've got already. So before we get into your reading, let's talk really quickly about the way Virgo moves during Gemini season, how Virgo sun placements, or Virgo in general. But it's funny, the first card that came out, again, I think this was in the last reading, the Leo reading, wanted to make very clear, let's bring that into focus. There we go. This might be a new trick with this camera setting. The Sun card. So we're definitely talking about Virgo suns. But as always, if this resonates with you, there is something spectacular and important and valuable for you to pull from it. And so, Virgo suns moving through the season of Gemini. Right now the sun is moving across the sky with Gemini in the background on a collective level. And so both Virgo and Gemini can complement each other wonderfully. They're both mutable signs, and Virgo having more of the taskmaster, the one that makes a list, follows it, checks things off, makes sure things get done. And in the season of Gemini, there's more fun with that. It liberates the Virgo's keen focus, which can at times be narrow, but we all get like that, of course. But Gemini says to, the sun moving through Gemini says to the Virgoian personality, let's get all these things done and let's dance while we do it. Let's play while we do it. Let's get the finger paints out and just start throwing things around. Let's cook and let the flour and the sugar fly in the air. If we're chopping and onions fall over the place, let's laugh about it, because life, that's life. It's messy. And so we'll follow the instructions, but let's play. And Gemini sun time, Gemini season will also try to give some nudges to the Virgo personality to not necessarily break the rules, but see how the rules in which a Virgo once thought they meant could mean something different. So if you are a painter, for instance, some noise outside. The boats are tooting their horns. If you are a painter, for instance, and you only use pastels, I don't know, I'm not a painter. And I mean, I paint, but I'm not a painter. And and you have a certain way of going about it, and you take liberties because you're an artist, and that's fantastic. And you let the flow of spirit move through you. Gemini is going to come in and say that the season of Gemini is going to bring in his influence and say to Virgo, awesome. What about if we add some feathers to that, real live feathers? And how would that look if we took that beautiful painting and tilted it on its side and then, I don't know, brought some glitter in or some sticks and created a 3D dimensional? And that makes it all of everything and more. And Virgo wants to pull back and say less is more. So there's this nice balance between Virgo and its more strict but willingness, because it is a mutable sign, willingness to soften its parameters and its boundaries and listen to what the Gemini season has to offer and add that to a Virgo personality's toolkit. So that is something to enjoy and feel into and explore with what might be presenting itself for you Virgos during this Gemini season. Now let's draw from the Spirit of the Animal Oracles. Get an overall spirit animal for you for this next 3.5, 4 weeks. There we go. Oh, again. Oh, we got 2. Interesting. Well, let's see. So this card came out in the last reading, the Leo reading, and it was a new card for me. It is the personal choice. Oh boy, forgive me that these cards aren't wanting to focus. All right. Well, we'll go in this way. So you can see just a beautiful picturesque view of the forest and the mountain in the background. I think there's a pond or a lake in front of that. And that is the card of sit and be still and call in what animal spirit wisdom or simply what wisdom wants to present itself to you in any given period of time. Allow that to be your personal choice, knowing and trusting that that's coming from spirit. So there's a lot being called in to listen within, even more so than navigating in the external horizontal environment, and letting that listening within, the feedback mechanisms within yourself that you're learning and developing and that are growing, let it enhance even more and let new characteristics come into play, new internal triggers. And I mean that not in the modern sense of how the word trigger is used, but I mean that in the sense of sensorial nuances, whether it's a type of ear ringing or a gut rumbling or a skin sensation or simply a knowing, that claircognizance of knowing and what goes on within the self, the sensations, even what inner visuals kind of come to mind when you start to feel the truth of a knowingness and you just know you're on track. So creating that, and then as your personal choice overall energy. And then what came out right after that here, there wants to be 2. I'll have to switch it back to the other camera mode. All right, so snow leopard. And I am not being called to read the words. I see just a very, we know the snow leopard as a bit of a mysterious and mystical creature. It is solitary, generally speaking, but not entirely. It does come together with the female especially. It has strong maternal aspects, but in certain environments, the male and female snow leopard will team together and travel together and work together. They take up a very large terrain of territory, which is interesting because in personality, the snow leopard, just like the face on the snow leopard, if you can see it, not so much. There's this straightforward look of presence and connection, and I don't want to say it's not reciprocating information, energy, emotion, but it's more like, I'm here to have a conversation with you. How would you like to show up? Here's how I'm going to show up. A blank slate, an open heart. The snow leopard has a big chest movement right here, and they have an extraordinary chest I don't even know. I can't think of the word. But you know, when you watch a big cat move, there is this confidence of the chest space and the heart space. And that's what I'm seeing here. That's occurring with the snow leopard. So I think, sorry, outside noises. I think as you're moving through a very large and vast terrain in a secluded way for the most part, you know, you have your moments and your times where you connect with your family and you connect with your community or a partner and friendships, but you're really taking a straight on locked look at what's in front of you and who's in front of you and getting a strong inner awareness of the conversation that's going on beneath and behind the conversations, behind the words, behind the demonstration of the one in front of you, or the one. I'm hearing just whoever's in front of you. And you know, again, in Gemini season, this is a time for Virgos to be experiencing more social interactions, community networking, and occupational opportunities as well. So let's see how that may come into the reading. So again, with the Sun card, self-express and embody the truth. That is the mode of the Sun. And I think that I'm hearing that you are creating a new canvas or template, back to canvas, the art of how you want to express who you know you are. Not necessarily changing who you are, but I think enriching it, giving it more depth, and in the way that like a painting, maybe the ones who are busy and not paying attention and they're just going and doing, and they're not taking the time to be slow and be really truly present to themselves and what's out there, it's in front of them, wouldn't see in your art. But the ones who are in this one-to-one engagement, this I am present, I am here, I am listening, where would you like to go from there? They're going to see your self-expression, your art, that is you, in some really incredible depths that are entirely subtle. But by you, Virgo, were put there very deliberately. And you spent time cultivating what those depths were and how it wants to express itself from you, not dictating how you're going to express it necessarily, but listening to how, with spirit, with the spirit of you, how those depths of you want to convey themselves in a way that is such a bigger truth of you. Because you've been embodying your truth. Again, not loving the feeling and what I'm hearing with all the popular ways of using your truth. I mean at a much deeper level than what pop culture right now is tagging truth to, with personalities and characteristics and preferences. I'm talking about the depths of truth that you've deep dived in to get in. Not only that, but the ones that came when, by going through the processes that you've gone through to embody more of yourself, you have discovered. And when I say embody, it is a visceral and somatic experience. It is not a it's not something that is of a platitude nature, an ideal or an idea. It's something that is experienced as a primary experience to embody the self. You'll feel yourself walking differently, feeling more of you, and maybe more of you in a way that you have never felt before in this lifetime, but you know is you. It's like, oh, hi, welcome home, me. It's that. So, all right, let's move on. So, as you see, I was able to put your spread in the thumbnail. I'm working with trying to fit these spreads on the thumbnails because, as you'll see, I had to put it side facing in order to fit on the frame that YouTube gives us. And so then underneath the Sun card, you'll see the two cards, Mars and Water. I do apologize that these aren't coming through. Below the Sun card. Now Mars here has a sword through his planet, and the Water card is telling me today that there's a duality that you're still reconciling is what's coming through right now. Oh, and that's interesting. There's an image coming through on the water that it looks like a person. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. It looks like a person. So boy, oh boy. Right here, there's the head upside down. And then here's the moon on the card. I was just not quite doing it. Ooh. All right, let's move on. So I'm hearing turned upside down into the waters of your consciousness. And, you know, water is often associated with emotion. And I believe that is more of a superficial and not in pretentious way, just it's more of a superficial, closer to the surface aspect of the water element working with the consciousness, the state of awareness into your own body, your own being. And in this image here, the person has allowed themselves, I'm hearing, to be turned upside down, to deepen the consciousness of his or her moon. It said sun though. So solar plexus, sense of self, sense of purpose. And I think that sense of purpose is coming through for you in a way that is more than just, you know, how do I want to be? What do I want to do in the outside world? It's coming through as something more of, how do I want to experience myself in this life, in every moment, in a way that's deeper and more spiritually connected? And that is what's coming through with the Water card, in contrast to the Mars card. Because here we've got the Mars card that is the action card, the doing, and the bringing in money, getting things done, making the bed, brushing your teeth. It's the things that we have to do and yet still balance with our ever-developing spiritual selves, and the demands that the spiritual self requires of us to, at certain points in time, be developing more and more. And for many now more than ever, they are experiencing their spiritual aspects, their higher selves, however you want to term it. People are experiencing that aspect of themselves, requiring spiritual attention, movement, existence, and workings in the world to be a full-time job in the spiritual paradigm, which is very different than the third dimensional physical action. If I do this, then this happens. You know, the common models of science, of reality, are not inaccurate, but when you start working more intently and intensely with your spiritual self, the laws of physics change entirely. And so it requires a different level of discipline and intention, confidence, all these things within yourself. And so I'm seeing here in the cards, there is this polarity and a tug and pull. How do I maintain the daily requirements of my life And yet I can feel my spiritual self calling me deeper into the waters. How do I bring that into my day-to-day, moment-to-moment? So let's go down the line of what Mars has to say. So here below Mars, we have the Nine of Cups is the Peacock, and the Seven of Wands, let's see, as the Alligator. All right. So the Peacock, the immediate idea of the Peacock is that showing offness. But yes, and also the Peacock has a reason to display his feathers. And here we've got, this is a male peacock. The male is the one with all the incredible spots and colors and flourishes to attract his mate or to attract what he wants. And so he's doing, in the very Mars sense, what needs to be done to create and cause the result that he wants. And so he's got them all out there, and they vibrate them, I'm seeing the feathers vibrate, and they shimmer them and cause reflections and a dance simply within the feathers. And he's doing that. And I'm seeing this little lotus at the very top, and it's like, it's getting results, but it's putting the spiritual aspect represented by the lotus separate, still way far up and above, and in a small little part of next to the moon, the consciousness of the moon. And so results are happening, but as you go down into the card and the colors of the peacock's feathers, they start becoming less brilliant, less pronounced. And now I'm seeing it kind of spread out. And he's getting less results, this male peacock is, than he used to. So it's almost as if the universe is starting to kick back and say, yeah, the old model of manifestation, or the old model of cause and effect, the old model of work hard, payoffs big, do this and this happens, isn't working. It's starting to bleed into this peacock's physical reality, that doing things in the old paradigm isn't going to work. And then here with the Seven of Wands, we've got these 6 alligators in the water, and then the one alligator up top here. I know it's hazy, but at least perhaps you can get the idea from the blur. And he's got his chin on the final wand. The other 6 have it along their spine. He's seeing that these alligators here are not real. They're embedded in like almost as layers of transparency with thinly coated coloring that look like water. And some of them are poking their heads up through this transparency layer, and they're showing themselves more clearly. But the alligator is laying on his wand. So there's a sense of defensiveness, but he also knows this doesn't have to be what he thought it was before, or she. And behind the alligator is, this is going to be really hard to see, but right here, this tiny little spot is a white deer, I think, of some sort. Not an elk, but a deer. Gazelle, no, not a gazelle, a deer. And that's representing the spiritual purity that the alligator, she wants to, or he wants to rely on, and not just brush behind him or her, but kind of, the alligator, once they lock their jaws onto something, it's in, right? They're locked in. So he wants to lock in on that spiritual aspect and not have that staff, that wand in its bite, but instead it's still close by, just in case, because the alligator is still navigating its sense of inner trust of the self, trust of the spirit, and trust of the spiritual realm. So there's still work to be done. And, you know, alligators take a long time to digest things. And, you know, that's a Virgoian trait as well. When a Virgo is, how do I say this? Virgos often, I have been told by other Virgos, will demonstrate any pathologies, mental, cognitive pathologies will begin in the gut. And that's your digestive center, right? Or the big part of it. And so this particular alligator, or alligators in general, they take their time to digest things. Don't quote me on this, but it's something like they eat once a month or once every few months. And it just moves slowly through them. They don't need a lot. They don't move a ton, but when they do, it's quick and it's decisive. And so I think that's what we've got going on here with you. Now, in contrast to the Nine of Cups, the peacock, and the Seven of Wands, the alligator, maybe it's crocodile. Forgive me if I'm mislabeling the poor creatures. Here we have the High Priestess and the Sun card out again. I really do want these to focus a little bit, so I'm gonna, there we go. There we go, it's my face in the background, that's why. So we've got the bat hanging upside down by the tip of the moon, and we have the mountain lion. I think there's a street sweeper moving by the neighborhood. It's summer. What are we gonna do? So the High Priestess here, she has her feet and her claws hooked into the moon, the mystery of the moon, the mysticism of the moon. Well up in with the stars, there's a shooting star up there on the upper left corner. And there's a nice mist between the moon and the lower world, the reality world. And that mist is the transition zone. And so right now, the bat, the High Priestess, has her feet, which in resting mode are above her instead of at the earth, like we would normally stand. And so the base of her, the root chakra of her, is being connected to the heavens and to the higher aspects, the gods, while her head, which has a moon here actually symbolically placed right at the head. Her head, while in the reality world, it looks like she's opening up into the underworld. So I believe she is bridging between the heavens and the underworld while existing in the reality world. Now that's some real watery work. Very High Priestess, right? And I'm hearing that's really where you like to be. With your feet in the heavens and your head in the underworld, and this bridge of balancing from the extremes of the two. You know, sometimes the heavens can become too righteous, too know-it-all, too blind to the challenges of the nuance of the human experience. And the underworld can be too primal when in an extreme, too carnal and reactive. And so here, this High Priestess, this bat, this night flyer, during her meditation and her quiet time, she is recognizing that sometimes what is up is down and what is down is up. And even then, imbalances can occur. So stay in the middle and maintain that balance. And here, what a beautiful contrast, because here we have the mountain lion, and she has its heads in the stars. So the opposite of the bat. So its head is in the stars, surrounded by this tree, laying on this tree, truly connected to the tree of life, the connection of above and below, and fully like just embracing the reality, the tree, the third dimensional interactive reality. But you also, if you look, that dangling paw there is touching the sun. Now we can't tell here today if it's a sunrise or a sunset. Perhaps a sunset. No? I don't know. I guess it's both. And the paw that's touching the sun is to remind itself that he is all of it. That the cougar, she is all the things. And again, the message being remain in the middle. And incredible life can come from staying in the middle and keeping an aspect of oneself above and below, and not being attached to what that means. Not being attached to, well, down below is the underworld, and that is the darkness, which is the this and that, which tends to have that heavier weighted. And not that it's wrong, but look at the quality of how you feel when you think of the darkness, the yin, the underworld, the self-reflective challenges of life. The quality of that feeling that you get when you look at those things is the labeling that we're putting on it. But when you can maintain that snow leopard state, that straight on look of I'm watching, I'm listening, and I'm the witness. I am the observer of the observable. I don't need to make it good, bad. I don't need to qualify it to be able to experience it. And now while the snow leopard is still experiencing the sensations of joy and despair and all the polarities of emotions and sensations, I believe what you're doing now is you're starting to play with what is it like to experience those things and completely detach myself from qualifying it as a good experience or a bad experience. It's simply an experience. Pain, severe pain, this is an experience. And the more a person can separate themselves from, and I speak this from great personal experience over extensive periods of time and intensive opportunities, to experience the type of pain that is inexperienceable, that can cause all kinds of wreaking of havoc upon the body and the organs and the neurological system, but to be able to experience it chronically at such intense levels in a way where you pull yourself back from it and you simply observe it, isn't to dissociate from the pain. It's to change what the pain means in the mind and in the entire physiology and the cellular memory. And when that happens, and there's a more objective observation involving watching pain and or bliss on the other end of the spectrum, then that changes the physiology of the cells and the body and the organs, the chemistry, the biochemistry. It changes everything. And so there was something that wanted to come through with that. And I lost it for a second. balance, and that's the Taurus card here in the middle. So when we can get to a point where we are the objective observer, we don't need to go into those polarities of high bliss, which are going to, by doing so, the universe requires balance. It's going to bring us to extreme despair. And you think of all the polarities and all their intensities, even when you get closer and closer to the center, there's still this, you know, slightly different weight between the two. And when you can stand in the middle, then you can choose, how much do I want to go over to this side? How much do I want to go over to that side? Knowing that to go over to high abundance is going to always eventually lead to an equanimous counter of lack of. But when you can stay in the state that's closer to the middle and recognize that you don't need the feelings that come with this excessive or overt amount of abundance, you can simply be in a state of contentment in the middle, still experience in abundance at its fullest without an extreme. Still experience desolate, whatever, the opposite of abundance. Still experience that without being in it in the extreme. And you can learn from these two closer to the center polarities. And then, of course, you can always venture out further if you want to learn more about that and its opposite. But when we start swinging closer into the center, into that state of balance, that's when we start moving up. And that's a whole nother conversation of what that actually means. So here the Taurus card says trust, patience, and sensuality. Trust is in the higher trust. You hear me mention that all the time. Patience, I'm getting kindness and like this gentle play coming in for you. Like being a child that's playing in such a way, in that child state where they're in flow and they're just, if you ever watch a child play by themselves and the world becomes their playmates, you know, the leaves in the trees become their friends, and also currency and tools or parts of building the fort and so forth. And so I'm seeing that when there's that greater, more fully embodied lean into higher trust, that patience of playful, childlike flow and openness and delight and joy is experienced as the contentment. And that is outside of the polarity that's moving upward now into the transcendence. And sensuality, that word just goes with what I just said. Sensuality, not to speak of the sensuality that comes with sexuality. I'm talking about sensuality that just makes you feel amazing to be in your own skin, that makes you feel like you are total love within and throughout every single cell of your body, and that the air around you and the way the natural world moves around you is in this kind of fluid dance and caress and hug, and it feels, again, very childlike, you know, being hugged by your grandma in terms of sensuality, having that, or grandfather or mom or your pet, your favorite dog curling into their lap or on their ribs or under their chin. That childlike sensuality that simply recognizes the purity of connection and touch, and touch not just with the physical, but with the magic and the mystery of the world around them. So that's you, Virgo. That's a pretty good long message. I hope that there was something wonderful there for you today, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And thank you for your likes, your comments, and your subscriptions on this channel, and on how you are experiencing this, how this is unfolding for you in your life. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Have a blessed Gemini season, and we will be talking soon. Take care.